March 21st meeting of the Milton Warrant Committee. And we have a couple of guests who will be presenting to us. And I'm very grateful for those of you on the committee who are able to join us, as you always do. I know this is crunch time, and I really appreciate, and I know the town will, all the time that you have put in. Lynn, would you take the roll, please?
Sure. John?
Yes.
Susanna?
Oh.
Aaron? George? JJ? Christine? Lorraine? Kristen? Kathy just entered. And
Kathy.
I think that is it.
Okay, very good. I declare a quorum, and our first order of business is to accept the minutes of the February 28th meeting. Are there any additions, changes, alterations, modifications, permutations, etc.?
Oh, they look good.
Hearing none, I thought they were very good, yes. Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to recommend.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Lynn, please take the roll.
John?
Yes.
Susanna?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
JJ?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you all. We're happy to have Katie Conlon, who's the chair of the Milton Select Board, with us tonight to bring up some of the Select Board articles that we have not yet heard about. And Katie, are you joined by Mike Zulis, or are you carrying the ball tonight?
Good evening, George, and members of the Warrant Committee. So Mike Zulis is here to talk about the broadband article, the municipal light plant.
Terrific.
I'm happy to answer some questions on others. There are some that I indicated we're still waiting for information from, and I wasn't quite sure what was on your agenda this evening. That's why I had sent some emails earlier today. So
no, I'm sorry. I thought you got it too.
We're going to need some, for instance, Eldering Corner, the citizens petition. I don't think you have the citizens here. I'm not sure what night you've scheduled that, but we're going to want to present some information from DPW on that. We don't have anyone from DPW here this evening.
That's fine. I think they're coming. Are they coming Wednesday, Lynn?
Sorry, George. The last I heard was that the select board needed more time for Algene, so I had not assigned a specific night. I just put it on the calendar just in case they were ready to go on that.
Okay. Well, let's try and get in touch with them and find out if they can come to the maybe the next meeting. No, I guess not. Maybe next Monday's meeting.
Yeah, and George, we're waiting for an opinion from the state. I think I put that in an email a couple weeks ago. We're getting an opinion on that issue, and we're hoping to have it soon. I will follow up with town council. I think that would be helpful before you discuss it. Is to
understood. But does the opinion negate the chance of the citizens petition getting on the in the warrant?
No, but it goes to the substance of the article.
Okay, all right.
Article 97 and the use of the property in connection with Article 97.
Understood. I hope that happens soon, because I know we've got an extra couple of weeks, but we do want to have the opportunity to talk about it. I guess at this point, I would
Mr.
suggest.
Chair, I have my hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you do. I apologize. Yes.
Is somebody going to notify the citizen who put forth this petition that his matter is going to be heard before us?
He's on the agenda. I just asked Lynn if she would get in touch and find out which he's on. It's on a couple of agendas. He can come Wednesday or Monday. I gather Monday will be easier. Lynn, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, George, it's been my practice to reach out to the authors of the citizens petition, request that they come to the meetings. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And we have had mixed success with people being willing.
Absolutely. He just keeps calling me. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, he does? Really?
Oh, yeah. We've had lots of interactions.
Yeah. Oh, lucky you. Like you don't have enough to do now, right? Okay.
It's all good. Whatever I can do to service the town. I just wanted to make sure that it was noted that he called.
I think if that's the case, I mean, as the chair of the select board points out, it'll be helpful to have the select board's input, but at some point we really have to hear what this fellow and his people around him have to say. So, well, we don't have to talk about that one. The codification zoning street acceptance, electronic voting. Now, the street acceptance and codification zoning are being proposed by the select board.
No, so the codification of zoning, I believe, is the bylaw review committee rather than the planning board, but it's been
Okay.
withdrawn. Tim Zerwinski, our planning director, has asked the select board at our meeting Wednesday evening, so we will not be able to join you Wednesday evening because we're meeting. But
Okay,
we have it on our agenda to withdraw that article.
okay, that's good. That makes it that makes it easy. And the electronic voting is Bob Hiss, the town moderator, as his procurement.
There are articles, but we've submitted them at the request of the moderator, and he had a committee that's been working on electronic voting at town meeting, and they're looking still at some cost information. So we don't have the details on that yet. We have followed up with the moderator. We're hoping to have that information very soon for you.
That will be helpful because it'll be obviously we need to know what the numbers are before we come up with a recommendation. So I guess then we get to, and we've talked about the land swap. We've invited the New Ponset Valley Parkway group and a couple of other, I think this is the Conservation Commission, to come to our next meeting. Lynn, is that right? Or Mondays, the 31st?
I was not aware of what group it was. I did reach out to Tim to ask
Oh,
that question, if he could point me into the direction of the chair of the neighborhood association affected by this. So I'm still in process of tracking that information down.
Okay, that's fine. As long as we get them on the agenda to discuss their thoughts about land swap. So we have Mike Zulis able to talk about the broadband.
Yes, George, and
Hi, welcome, Mike. Nice to see you.
good to see you, George. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I am here as well as Mark Day, a member of our committee, and he'll lead you through a PowerPoint that he presented to Lynn. I don't know if Lynn is going to drive or if you're going to let Mark share his screen and have. Oh, looks like Lynn's going to
Here
drive.
we go.
Just as a quick overview. For the last year and change, the Broadband Committee has been working on two things in parallel. One was the rebuilding or renovation of the town INET, the fiber network that connects all the town buildings. And last fall, we presented a plan to rebuild that fiber network, renovate that fiber network without using any local taxpayer funds. And this committee approved of that plan, and town meeting approved of that plan, and all of that funding has been approved. And so now on that one, we're going down the road of putting together an RFP to get that going. So that's one piece. What we're here tonight on is the second piece, and that is providing an option for residents to replace Comcast or RCN as their provider with better, faster, cheaper internet to the home. And that's the focus of the Warrant article. And with that, I will turn it over to Mark Day, who has put together this presentation. If that's okay, George.
Okay, I'm going to assume in the absence of objections from George that it's fine. So can we advance to the next slide, please? As Mike indicated, this is a bit of review. The INET is basically moving forward. And so none of this discussion at this meeting is really strictly speaking about the INET. We're going to replace it. There's funding in place. There is work happening to get a bid in place that will likely have actually moved further forward by the time of the town meeting. Next slide, please. The INET is inherently dual purpose. And so the reason that we are doing it and the reason that we funded it is to replace the current INET. And the current INET is obsolete and a problem. And so the new INET is effectively a drop-in replacement for it with some small changes for the fact that there are differences in town facilities coming online. But there is an additional, if you like, freebie that comes along with the INET, which is that the nature of a fiber optic network construction is that you can effectively overbuild it for no money. the correct behavior would be to lay more strands than you actually expect to use. And so that means that we will have a thing that could conceivably serve as the backbone for a fiber to the home network without doing any additional work. So the article is about if you like, the mechanism that would go along with that. So next slide, please. So the municipal light plant was already voted forward, the first step, if you like, at the last town meeting and this is an entity for the purpose of owning and operating a municipal broadband network. The first vote didn't actually construct the MLP. We have to have a second vote. And if the second vote doesn't pass, then we can't just keep asking town meeting. We have to take a pause for 2 years. Next slide, please. So confirming the MLP essentially is about giving us the option to pursue this possibility of a network to homes. The new INET will be built regardless of whether the MLP is confirmed or not. The MLP, the new INET is funded. We need it. So the MLP is basically not relevant to that. If we want to be in the position of possibly having a network with paying subscribers as opposed to just a town infrastructure, then an MLP makes sense because it gives us the financial mechanism for separating out the financial aspects of operating it and continuing to maintain it. So it's vaguely similar to what we do with enterprise funds for water and sewer and stormwater. Next, please. Okay, so the responsible entities, again, just to be clear, we have the question of construction and the question of operation, and we have the INET and we have the fiber to the home network. And sometimes people get these things muddled. So I'm just putting them down here that this is talking about the fiber to the home, and it's talking about both construction and operation. So next slide. Just noting that the focus here is on the town building the fiber to the home and the MLP operating it, with sort of a footnote that the INET itself might be operated by the MLP if we build the fiber to the home. Next slide, please. We're also concerned with different sources of funding in these two networks. So again, if we advance this one more time, the point here is that we're concerned in the fiber to the home with taking capital payments from subscribers and possibly town bonding in order to build the network. We're concerned about taking monthly payments from subscribers in order to pay for its operation. Next slide, please. This is the flow of funds if the network magically materialized and we were only concerned with running it. We would be taking in monthly subscriptions, and we would be spending the money on some combination of keeping the network running and paying the providers that we would need to pay in order to have access to the larger internet. The next slide, please. This is the simplified version of what happens if we only care about building the network and we're not concerned about running it. We're going to take some combination of money from subscribers, which they will either pay us one time upfront or they will get bundled into some kind of a monthly charge. And there will be debt, some amount of debt bonded by the town. And then that will go and get spent on construction. Next slide, please. Sources of capital for construction. Some of it can come from subscribers. Some of it can come from the town. That's basically the only choices. And the mixture is to be designed. I'm not trying to resolve that today. Next slide, please. So when you combine those two slides and you add in some other relevant points, this is kind of what you expect to see happening with the MLP, is that you're taking in subscriptions, you're taking in subscriber capital, you're taking in debt, and then you're spending it on some combination of maintenance, repair, actually keeping the network running, building the network, and paying off the debt that you took on. Next slide, please. A key financial goal that has been clear is that there's no appetite for the town to be using tax revenues to subsidize the operations or to be using the tax levy for servicing the debt. So a goal here is for the debt service to be fully covered by monthly subscriber fees. Next slide, please. Take rate is something that matters when we're concerned with building these networks, because that describes the potential, the fraction of the potential households that actually subscribe. We need to build a network to cover some set of potential premises. And if everyone subscribes, then the cost is divided among many people. If almost no one subscribes, then the cost is divided among very few people. A conservative target in a town such as ours that already has broadband service from multiple providers is to target about a 40% take rate in the design. Next slide, please. The broadband committee has supervised a market survey conducted by a consulting firm and funded by the select board. That those results show that of the people who were surveyed, that 63% of them were interested in some kind of service, and more relevant for our purposes, at least 54% of those surveyed would pay $60 a month for 100 megabit per second service, and at least 51% of those surveyed would pay $80 a month for a gigabit per second service. So all
Mark,
these
numbers, I have to ask you, alert
Please.
you that you're 7 minutes, you're reaching your 7 minutes. So if you want to move it along, that would be helpful.
Okay, so let me skip forward a slide. The observation here is that we can pick up Quincy's numbers from their broadband master plan, and we can adjust them. What we get as a result of those adjustments is somewhat higher numbers than theirs. And let me skip to the punchline, the next slide. Our pro forma estimates are wind up totaling about $65 a month. And we know that well above half the households would pay roughly that amount of money. We only need to break even at 40%. So that suggests that we've successfully done a sanity check here that this is a plausible direction to go. So if I go forward one more slide, what we're asking town meeting to do is to approve the MLP so that we can engage in further design and exploration with potential vendors. And just to underscore, there's no funding being requested. If there is to be funding involved in terms of bonding for construction of a fiber to the home network, that would be a subject for a future town meeting. Approving the MLP does not obligate the town. It just gives us these choices. That's it.
Lynn, do we have, thank you very much, Mark. Does anyone have any questions before we flash up the language for the article that I hope we have? To be able to do this.
It's Christine.
Yeah, in the interim, we'll enter any questions from the membership. Christine, please, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I ask these questions every time we talk about this, so please forgive me that they were probably answered 6 months ago or whenever we talked about that. I know. Two questions. The first is other than a low cost internet option for the citizens, why would we want this? And then the second is, and maybe there's no other reason, maybe that's it, that's perfectly fine. And the other.
Yeah, I think that it's the thing that most people find appealing is the low cost. I think there is an argument to be made too for, if you like, local control, the sense that the people who would be responsible in some sense for an increasingly essential basic infrastructure would be reachable via town political processes as opposed to being functionaries of a remote corporation. But I think that those are related ideas for most people.
And I would add one thing. It increases your choice because if we have a network, it won't be Comcast providing its internet service. You'll get a choice of a number of, so it'll increase the choice for the residents to choose their internet service provider among many. So
I should also say that at a technical level, this will be this will have capacities in terms, particularly of upload, that are not achievable with either of the legacy networks in town. We would expect to be able to support symmetric upload and download speeds of 100 megabits or gigabit, and that's not all the existing technologies are highly asymmetric.
Thank you. One follow-up, kind of related question. Are we equipped to be in this business?
I couldn't hear the last part.
In this business, I think. Yes, Christine? Yeah.
So one of the slides that I went through very quickly was talking about the costs of operation, and I think that at the moment that is one of the things that we need to plan more carefully, is the question of whether that is likely to be effectively outsourced, whether it's likely to be a new town capability. I think that there are a lot of different ways of approaching that, and I don't think that there's any there are no showstoppers there, but there's also no clear answer to your question.
But this just gives us the opportunity to move forward if we want to. It doesn't compel us.
Yes. The MLP is effectively just an entity that allows us to then sort of engage in more serious conversations with people who are expert and who might be, for example, the entities with which we would contract to support the network.
Last quick question. Do most municipalities outsource it? I would imagine.
I think that it's kind of all over the map. I think the classic thing that happens that we've seen is that towns that already have an electrical utility, basically those people extend into this. I think that towns that don't have an electrical utility typically wind up either working with a town that does have an electric utility or with an outside company that has that expertise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Thank
questions.
Other questions? We have up on the screen now the article itself. It looks surprisingly identical to what we looked at last year at this time, which I think I know we passed and recommended to town meeting.
Yes.
Does anyone have any? I'm sorry. Is there a question?
No, I was agreeing with you that's correct, and that's a feature here. It should indeed be identical.
Yeah, right. So does anyone have any questions about the article itself or other questions about the progress that this will permit as the second ratification by the town council, by the town meeting? Okay, if there are no other questions, is there anything anybody wants to bring up about this before I think we can take a vote on this pretty easily. Okay, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to recommend the establishment of a municipal lighting plant to the town meeting in the second, as a second round of the process.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion that we need? Sorry, I didn't know I was off again. Any further discussion required, do you think? Or can we calling? Okay, terrific. Lynn, would you take the roll, please?
John,
Yes.
Susanna. You're
Yes.
mute. Erin,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
JJ,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
That's it.
Very good. Thank you very much. It was. I think this could be a very interesting thing to see kind of unfold, and it would be a lovely option for the town if everything came together. I know initially when Mike brought it forward, it was effectively for updating the town services. The real icing on the cake, I think, was the idea that we could even expand it. So if it does move forward, whatever we get will be terrific as an option. Okay, so
Thank you, George. Thank you, everyone.
oh, Mike, thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate your time and your contribution, and we're grateful you came to speak to us.
Thank you for your work.
Oh, well, thank you. We'll see you later. Okay, so we have, since we had Alex Whiteside presenting the citizens petition last week on the accessory dwelling unit in-law apartment, I have had requests from Mark Kelly and Maggie Oldfield. Maggie, I think I got yours first, so I'm going to give you the floor if you're ready. Are you still here with us? Oh, maybe she signed off. I don't see her. Well, maybe she'll come back to us. Anyway, oh, Katie, go ahead. You have your hand up.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask if there's anything else for the select board articles that you need us for. I may stay and listen to this discussion, but if there's anything else, I could.
You're very welcome. No, at this point, we'll just wait for the information that you have. And I know that we're going to have some numbers and other things forthcoming, so that'll help us move along.
Okay, and I should let you know, we have on our agenda for Wednesday night, all of these articles, the non-budget articles. So it's possible that our board may take a position. I know the planning board had a vote the other night on a recommendation for the citizens petition regarding temporary apartments. It's possible our board may as well.
Yep. Okay, that's fine. And when they come up, we'll happily look at them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll have Mr. Kelly. You have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can, and please remember, be aware your presentation is limited to 7 minutes.
I'm sure it'll be a lot briefer than that.
Okay.
Mike
we
Kelly,
want you to make your point.
Sure. Mike Kelly, 132 Whittier Road, town meeting member, precinct 9, former member of the planning board. And I just want to speak on this because I think I have some experience. And I'm hoping that the Warrant Committee will advise to send the citizens petition to the town meeting. And the reasons I like it is because it answers a lot of questions. It finds a common ground between the existing special permit and the planning board's article. One of the lines of experience I have is I went to the special permit probably, I think it was 2004. My father had passed away. We wanted my mother to move in with us. And I ended up before the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I just want to comment that I found the process very easy. I made an appointment. Went before the Zoning Board of Appeals. I showed them a plan of what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it and who was going to move in there. And they very quickly said that seems fine. And they voted on it and approved it. And not only did they approve it, but they more or less encouraged it. They said that we hope to see more people come before us like this to help out their elderly parents and family members. So I found it a very easy process. The citizens article I know is, it expands on who can occupy the unit. It works on the footprint. It makes the termination process or renewal process easier. It creates a lot of ease in the process, although, like I say, I found the special permit process pretty easy to start with. So I'm hoping that the warrant committee will vote in a positive sense to send this to the town meeting. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I just like to make one more comment, and that is, I was on the planning board, I believe it was between 2012 and 2017. It probably doesn't add a lot to your decision here, but I keep hearing that this has been thrown around quite a bit, and that it came up before the board in 2014, and having that I use the special permit process and that I have kind of an interest in it now, I'm sure I would have had an interest in it at that point in time. And I do not recall it ever coming before the planning board during my time. And I have, other than this article that came about, which seemed to me to be rather lately, I haven't heard much clamor in the town for all these needs for people to put apartments in their houses. So I think the process that's in place is a good process. And I think this citizens article adds a little bit more to that to make it even easier. So again, I hope you guys vote in a positive sense on that. And I thank you for your time.
George, you're muted.
My apologies. I'm usually the one asking people to unmute. Questions for Mr. Kelly? I don't want anyone to have to miss an opportunity if they have something they want to ask from the membership of the committee.
I have a question. I know you have a couple people with their I know you have a couple people with their hands raised, but they aren't warrant committee members, so I don't know what
No,
should I
you
go
have.
first?
We're asking for questions from the membership first.
Okay. I would just want to make sure I understand this, and I'm sorry if I'm just completely clueless, but Mr. Kelly, you're speaking in favor of the citizens petition that was submitted by Mr. Whiteside. Is that right?
Correct.
As opposed to the proposed article, which we had voted on and then sent back. All right. I just want to make sure, and I've seen that. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing some new one that was out there.
No. This is Alex. It's Alex. Alec, I believe, is also on the call. If anybody has questions for him about this,
just as to that point, I think that's another point in its favor. Mr. Whiteside wrote this bylaw, and again, in my 5 years on the planning board, Mr. Whiteside wrote every amendment or bylaw that came in front of us. So I mean, he's a lawyer. This is his thing, and he crosses all the T's, dots all the I's, and I'm sure anything he writes will stand up to any scrutiny.
Well, that is high praise from a member of a committee that he chaired. I mean, you give him great street cred, so I'm sure he's grateful for that too. Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you very much. We're grateful. I think, Kristen, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Hi, so the article that was referred back to planning, will that be in this warrant in May, or do we have an idea when we'll see that again?
I guess it would not come up that quickly because the planning board and the select board have to recommend it, and the warrant is just about ready, is basically closed at this point. I do not think it would be on the May warrant. I could be wrong, but it would surprise me if that were the case. Okay. Right, sure. Kathleen, welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asher. And just briefly wanted to say that in the 2015 August special town meeting, can't imagine having a special town meeting in August, but we did in 2015. And as the accessory dwelling units article was on the warrant for that meeting, just to clear up a clarification point that was made by Mr. Kelly. Secondly, I do not think that we will go forward with the accessory dwelling unit for the May meeting. That is not a decision that has been made by the planning board yet, but there are so many other things, as you well know, Chair Asher, to be considered on the May meeting that I would hate to see another 3 hours of 6 hours of our lives spent on this 10 unit proposal. And as I mentioned the other day, the idea with this improving the temporary apartments is a great idea, but there has been some considerable confusion. Temporary apartments are in fact 2 families. They are also under our zoning because they have separate stoves. They are also countable on our affordable housing count, just as ADUs are. And they do not have the proposed cap that the ADUs do. I would also point out, in fact, that it's a sad situation that our zoning board is so overworked that according to counsel that I spoke to the other day, there is a year wait to get on the agenda for the temporary apartments for special permit like this. So there's no huge rush to this, but it is a citizen's petition, is entirely appropriate to be put on the warrant, and we have to anyway. But the planning board said that there may be some way to get the accessory dwelling units and the temporary apartments going to the point that you made at town meeting, Chair Asher, about the fact that there should be some sort of uniformity of approach. And so the planning board recommended that it come back to us for further work.
Okay, that's great. Listen, Kathleen, thank you very much for coming to speak to us tonight. I'm grateful for your input and the update. Erin, you have your hand up.
You're
You have the
welcome.
floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions. So
Please.
from what I just heard, there can be, I don't know, let's say 50 applications for this apartment, temporary apartment in any year. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Asher, yes, there's no cap on the temporary
you.
apartments, other than the
Okay.
capacity of the
Yeah,
zoning board to deal with it.
that part of the question confused me because I didn't think there was a cap at all. So yeah, you could have 500 if you want, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Right. And Kathleen, do those all count? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm asking
Go ahead.
Kathleen this
Please,
question,
you
but
go
if
ahead.
it's okay.
Please ask the question.
Do those all count towards our
The subsidized
housing
housing
base?
inventory, yes, they do.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Asher, is
Yes,
that they
thank you.
do. They are, in fact, they get they get a certificate of occupancy. And so they are counted as a dwelling unit, just the same as you would count a, mega mansion.
Okay. And has the planning board taken a vote on this yet?
We voted 3-2 on Thursday night.
Against
our
it.
third meeting of the week, to refer it back to us for further study.
And did I just hear that Chair Conlon said that she and her board was going to take a look at this and also vote on it? So
Tomorrow,
Right.
I'm sorry, Wednesday, concurrent with ours. So we do not have to take a vote on this until after
perfect.
all that. No. I honestly, I mean, with respect to everybody on the call, I know this is a subject that is going to take more discussion, and I did not plan a vote for this tonight, particularly after knowing what the select board has to go through. So I think we can do we still have 3 more meetings following. We will have time to talk about this.
Thanks, Mr.
Erin,
Chair.
have you asked your question? Are you done? I don't want
I'm
to cut
done.
you off. Okay, perfect. Susanna, you have the floor.
Sorry, I just want to clarify after Aaron's, because I find this complicated. I hope it's not
There's
just
nothing simple about this discussion.
Ms. O'Donnell, so when you say that these ADUs would qualify toward the affordable housing, that's only if there's someone in them who's qualified for the affordable housing, correct? So
No.
it's not our-
I think you misunderstood the question.
Yeah.
The question was whether they counted there's been a lot of talk about these ADUs affecting the number of units that we have and affecting adversely are trying to reach a 10% of affordable dwellings. And all I was trying to make clear is that accessory dwelling units and temporary apartments both count.
Understood. Yes,
There's
thank
no
you.
difference
I thought
between
you
the
were
two.
saying, I thought you
that-
were saying that the people who lived in them would count toward reaching our goal of affordable housing, and I was just wondering how we could know that.
No, I mean, I represent, as I've said before, many affordable housing trusts in other towns. I am in fact an attorney. And Mr. Kelly may not know that, but I actually am a lawyer. So
Thank you.
Well, we know it.
The fact of the matter is that I represent several towns, Lincoln being one, which has affordable housing, affordable accessory dwellings. But they require the fact that you have to have a restriction on them. They have to be approved by DHCD. You have to rent to whoever is on the list. And so people don't, sign up for that necessarily.
What it
Thank you.
basically does, though, if I'm understanding properly, is it adds to the denominator of the housing stock.
It does. But as I said, if we had a specific program which
Yep.
now that we have community preservation funds, which is what Lincoln uses for theirs, you
Yep.
could do it, but it's
Yep.
a whole different.
It's a different animal. Okay,
Not for
Suzanne,
nothing,
that is
yeah,
your question?
I just, not for nothing, but like, assuming there really aren't 500 people who want these, the addition to the denominator is going to be really small, right? I mean, as a percentage of all the housing in Milton, like we're not really that worried that this is going to increase our affordable housing burden, are we?
I'm not, but
I wouldn't
apparently
think so.
that's what other people are.
I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
No,
Right,
I have no
Kathleen,
worries
can I
about
ask
it
a
at all.
question? But
Who?
hold on, Mr. Chair,
Erin,
can I
is
ask a
that
question?
you? Yeah, go
Yep,
ahead.
it's me.
Yep.
But in the other ADU language, there was a cap of 10. So with this Alex Whiteside citizens petition, there could be 12, correct? In a given year?
Yeah,
Even though
you
they're
can
a
get
year
as
behind.
many as you can get applications for.
Right.
So that point that folks are making about the additional stock under the ADU is also the same under Alex Whiteside.
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
Thank you. All right,
Okay.
now I get it. All
Great.
right, thanks.
Okay, terrific. Other questions before we address?
George, can
Oh,
I
go
ask
ahead,
you-
John. Please go ahead.
Ms. O'Donnell, can I ask you this? You were on the Board of Appeals. How many a year would come for an addition like Mr. Kelly did? How many a year would you get?
Oh, I think we probably, as I recall, maybe we had 2 or 3, no more than that. And
Yeah.
maybe just 2. They're not cheap. And,
No,
really.
that's true.
So it's not like you're going to drop $100,000. I don't know how many people have done it like a new bathroom lately, but it's a significant expense.
Right. All right, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Kristen, you had your hand up?
No, I put it down. Thank you.
Okay, of course. Other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to Maggie Oldfield. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thanks. My name is Maggie Oldfield, and I live at 397 Hillside Street, and I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 5. And I'm here tonight to speak about the citizens petition. I want to give a little bit of personal background. I have many roles in my life, but the most significant one is being part of my family. My husband and I were both raised in Milton, and because of the many wonderful things here in Milton, we decided to raise our kids here. Both of our kids attended Milton Public Schools. My daughter is a junior at UMass Lowell, and my son is a freshman at Mass Maritime. And we are fortunate that our families, including my mother-in-law and my mother and my 3 siblings, all call Milton home. And we all have various needs. My mother is 86 and has COPD. She's on oxygen and has limited mobility. My mother-in-law has bravely dealt with MS nearly her whole life and has just finished a year of chemo and radiation. I had an older sister who had special needs and needed significant care, and I have an 11-year-old niece with Down syndrome. I tell you all this because I'm personally familiar with the varying needs of our residents, as well as the costs that are associated with those needs and the costs of living in Milton. Our temporary apartment bylaw has been in effect for several decades and has afforded our residents the opportunity to take advantage of it as their needs arise. In fact, as I understand it, there's about 30 properties today that have a special permit to have one in their home. And as far as I know, there's never been one criticism of the temporary apartment bylaw use. It's a tremendous tool that is currently available to all of our residents. However, even though this bylaw has been working reasonably well, I believe that our bylaws need to be periodically taken off the shelf, dusted off, reviewed, and amended. There's always room for improvement, and not drastic changes, but still improvement. And that's why I'm one of the sponsors of this citizens petition. Even though the process to get a special permit to have an apartment is not overly onerous, some of the requirements can be. Milton's underlying zoning is single family, and when you want to do something outside of that use, you must go through the special permit process. And I'm familiar with this process as I own and operate a business outside one of our 3 commercial districts. And even though my business is second generation and we are entering our 57th year, I must renew my permit every 5 years through the Zoning Board of Appeals. I believe in the special permit process. I believe in that your neighbors should be notified when you want to do something that is outside the permitted use. Milton, as I said, is primarily a single family community, and we all bought here with that reassurance. And it's not right to change the rules without any notice. The initial process is one of collaboration. It's about being a good neighbor. And if for some reason there's a disagreement among neighbors, the ZBA is there to mediate and find reasonable solutions. In fact, our zoning, it's there to protect the neighbors, the neighbor who has earnestly saved for their American dream of living in a single family community. Zoning ensures that the character of each neighborhood is protected, and zoning is there to ensure that no harm will come. A neighbor that may not have the physical, emotional, or financial resources to stand up for themselves can be assured that their rights are being protected by the town. The ZBA is there to protect all of us. So some of the requirements that I think need to be changed, there's about 7 of them. For instance, number 1, the name of the occupant no longer is required. Number 2, the occupant has been expanded to include a caregiver, including a nanny or a child care provider. Number 3, an addition to your house or a garage could be used as a temporary apartment. Or when you renew your permit, you only have to apply to the building inspector. You don't have to go through the Zoning Board of Appeals. 5, when your house is sold, you do not have to remove any of the work you made, except to remove the oven and fridge. 6, when the house is sold, the new owner can continue with the permit as long as they notify the building inspector. And 7, there are no caps to this bylaw. And if there's a change to your family's needs, you can apply for a special permit without having to worry about how many have already been issued to other residents. This bylaw supports aging in place. It supports families with members that have a disability. There's no downside to it. All our residents can benefit from these amendments. These amendments are progress. They're improvements that we have all been waiting for. This is an existing bylaw. Like, it's not something new or untested. It's already being used today, and it should not be controversial. If you choose not to support the citizens petition, you are voting to delay the changes that our citizens are looking for today. There's no reason for you not to support this. Voting yes to support this is a win for our residents. So I just thank you for your time and your consideration and any questions you may have.
Maggie, thank you very much. Questions by the members? Maggie Oldfield. Susanna, you have the floor.
I'm like taking over the floor all night. I apologize.
No, you ask the questions.
Either I don't know if this question is for Maggie or if it's from the original drafter of the petition. Either is fine. I'm wondering, like, one of the concerns that I think some people had about the original warrant article that was proposed was the volume of changes that could be made. It was supposed to be limited to 10, but people had some questions about whether it would actually be limited to 10. I'm curious about why in the citizens petition, what was the impetus for opening it up to an unlimited number? I understand the differences. I understand that this is more limited in many ways, but I'm just wondering whether somebody saw a particular need in an unlimited number of opportunities, or what drove that.
Alex, can you, if you're on and you'd like to answer that since you authored it? You're recognized. Thank you. Yes, hi, Alex. Go ahead, you have the floor. You're muted. You're muted.
While we wait for Mr. Whiteside, can I just ask Maggie if you could mute? I think we're getting some static from your computer. Thank you.
And you can put your hand down too, because I know you're there. Alex, you have the floor. We still can't hear you. Oh dear. Lynn, can we unmute him? Oh, there you go. Hang on. Try that again. you're still muted. There you go. Go ahead. This is sad. We can't hear a thing. We can't understand you. It's not that you're muted. It's just your mic must not be working. Try that again. Oh, this is frustrating.
Well, not to take over from
Can I
Alex,
just,
because nobody.
Yeah,
could-
go ahead, Maggie.
Nobody could replace Alex, but I am, in all honesty, I signed a petition against the ADU that went to town meeting last
Yep.
week, and I
Yep.
am a signer of this. So the difference between the two is the whole special permit process. So when there's a special permit process, if there's neighbor notification, and so it allows the neighbor to bring forth their questions and to work with the neighbor who's proposing this addition. So if a question like parking arises, the neighbors can work through it and their questions can be answered. The ADU that came before town meeting last week, there's no neighbor notification. Every house just could do it as of right. So neighbors don't have a say. So for instance, as I said, I have 2 kids and my daughter is an early elementary education major. My guess is she probably would qualify for one of these units. And I don't, as a mother of college students, each of my kids have a car. Like not a newer car, but they each have cars. And so in my family of 4, we have 4 cars. And we actually have 5 cars because my husband plows. But I think if you have a 2-bedroom apartment and you're going to rent it out to students or kids in their 20s or teachers, they can't afford probably the market rate of a unit, so they're going to have roommates. So that means a 2-bedroom will probably mean 2 or 4 people living in it with 4 cars. And so as of right, there's no discussion as to where these cars are going to go. So that was my problem with it, is the lack of special permit process and neighbor notification. And to me, that was the biggest difference.
Okay.
Thank you. I
Susanna?
understand, Maggie, and I'm on board with all of that. I guess I'm just trying to understand why, and maybe you don't know, but why in the citizens petition we expanded the 10 potential approvals to unlimited. Was there a specific
it didn't.
reason for that?
Wait, finish, Susanna.
No, that's it. I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Okay.
Can I answer?
Excuse me. We have a question by a member also. Erin, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So if I'm understanding correctly, Maggie, what you just said is that it had nothing to do with the amount of ADUs or temporary apartments that would be in our town. That had nothing to do with anything, right? So that piece is off the table. What it had to do with was the cars. So for example, my dad, as everybody on this warrant committee knows, because I talk about it all the freaking time, my dad moved in with me during COVID. God bless me. And so I just want to say he doesn't drive. My daughter, who is in college, also doesn't have a car. So I have a 4-person driveway. And for me to do an ADU under what is the current town rules, I'd have to wait at least a year before I came up before the permit process for my dad to have that type of apartment in the back of the house, which has its own opening, like its own door. So I guess I'm running into a lot of problems here, because at first it was there's too many ADUs or there's too many of these temporary apartments, but there's no limit on the temporary apartments. And it's pretty cheap to get rid of, even though I'd have to take out the stove and the refrigerator. And my last point is, my neighbor right behind me is right now ripped off half their house and rebuilding it. I got no notice of that. Neither did any of my other neighbors here. And so I guess I'm questioning like what the whole purpose is, because if my neighbor can rip down half their house and put up a new giant thing and none of us are notified about it, then I don't really get what the issue, why we need to revamp this other thing. Like, I just don't understand, is what I'm saying.
We have Alex Whiteside who just joined us. Alex, are you unmutable?
This should work.
Success. You have the floor. There are several questions that that I'm sure you can answer for the members that have been posed.
Let me answer that question about why we didn't put a cap on. We didn't put a cap on it because there is no current cap. And we tried to do as little as possible while addressing the concerns. We weren't out to change the article. We were out to address the problems in the article without changing it. And there was no cap, and there still isn't a cap. And if there are a lot of elderly people, more than 10, that I think who need a temporary apartment, I think that would be great. And I think most people would agree.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Okay. Mr. Kelly, you had something to say. Go ahead.
Well, I think I just wanted to agree with what Alex said. I think the point was being lost on that original question, why it was changed to be unlimited. It's always been unlimited. And as you heard earlier, I think it was Kathleen said, before the zoning board of appeals, it was probably 2 a year coming forward. And it's always been, it wasn't changed with the citizens petition. It's always been unlimited. And then when the person says that someone's ripping their house apart and building onto it, apparently they're within the zoning bylaws. And the zoning bylaw right now doesn't allow 2 families in a 1-family zone. So if you want to change something on the zoning, you go for a special permit. I mean, if someone's building something and they're adding to the house next door to me, I'm all for it if it's going to increase the value of the house and increase the values in the neighborhood, and that's great. But if they're going to invite people to live there and don't let anybody know and change their house into a 2-family, then I think there should be some involvement with the neighborhood. Unless, like I've said before, I think the town or realtors should, if that zoning passed, the article that was before us the other night, either the realtors or somebody in town should be notifying people, when you buy this house in this 1-family zone, lo and behold, the guy on one side, the guy on the other side, may be virtually a 2-family. He has people there he don't know. He put an article in the Patriot Ledger. People come in and moved in, and he has a 2-family. So don't tell me I'm buying the house that's zoned 1-family if in fact maybe half the people in the neighborhood are 2-families. And nobody knows that because they could do it by right. Eventually, maybe by right, they can turn it into a 3-family.
Thank you. And I apologize if my question was stupid. We don't all have your level of expertise.
No. I don't mean that at all. I just thought it was a good question. It was just getting lost a little bit.
Lynn, do you have something to say?
This was effectively changing that when it wasn't.
Lynn, do you have something to say?
George, I just want to say we're trying to track down where we're hearing this static from. So if everybody,
Yeah, I'm getting a buzz too.
it's a real buzz. If
distracting.
everybody, Mr.
John
Kelly, would you?
Driscoll.
What?
Oh, bingo. Oh, is it John?
I don't even know how to control the computer.
You need to
Okay.
mute.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Bingo. Kathleen, you have the floor. Kathleen O'Donnell.
I just wanted to clarify a couple of things.
Why
The
is this
only, and
static?
because this isn't the article that's before us, and I'm sympathetic, Mr. Chair, to this discussion of an article that's not in fact before the warrant committee this evening. So, the comments about the accessory dwelling unit article are interesting, but not on point.
Understood. No, I
But I
get it.
do want to say just a couple of things. One is that the only units that were as of right in the article for the accessory dwelling unit were ones that could be done in your house without any major changes. Everything else is a special permit. And as we know, many of the houses in Milton are non-conforming now. And so you can't even fix the back steps to your house without having to get a variance. So 99% of the time, even if you could do it in your own house without making a major change, you're going to have enough of a change that's going to require the special permit. So that, the special permit process is there for if you're building an extension, and if you're building a house, a separate building in the backyard. So most of the permits probably, well, most of the applications will end up having to get a special permit, very much like the temporary apartment one is always a special permit. So this notion that, you're going to be flooding the place with as of right. And I would point out, as we had mentioned before, as Mike Zulus mentioned, is that there are already almost 600 two-family houses in Milton already.
Yes.
It's not a rare occasion. And so if you look around in many of the neighborhoods here, perhaps not in precinct 9, but certainly in my precinct, you're going to see them. And so I just said, none of those, the article for the accessory dwelling units is not before the warrant committee this evening. But I don't
Why
think
are
that
you talking about it?
because people keep mentioning it and sort of using it as an opportunity to sort of say why, the article for accessory dwelling units was so wrong. And I just want to correct the misunderstanding.
No, we appreciate that, and it's noted, and we thank you
And
very
I'm
much.
done.
Well, Kathleen, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for coming. Now, Alex Whiteside is here. I'm going to conclude the meeting by asking if there are any questions for Alex as the author of this petition. Now's the time. Alex, if you are, unless, nobody has anything, it seems like this evening, but if we do have other questions that come up in the course of our discussion, would we be able to call on you to answer some of the questions?
I'm always available to answer questions. You can
Terrific.
call me and I will appear at your meeting because
Thank you.
I
That's
like
good.
to discuss zoning. I like zoning. I like.
Well, you've done it long enough. You've certainly done a lot of it. Okay, thank you very much. Warrant, thank you to all of our guests. I think the Warrant Committee now has, we're still waiting on some data on a couple of the other non-budget items, and the free cash for the town administrator will join us at one of our next meetings. They're going to confirm the free cash flow number and the revenue numbers from for the town. I think at their next select board meeting. So that'll we'll know the numbers almost concurrently with them. And Anne-Marie Fagan will come back and talk to us about how the entirety of the budget looks. It looks actually that we'll be able to fund mostly everything that we have seen already. And then we can go ahead and finish taking our votes. We're still waiting on some other information about the warrants, and rather than go through take more time, actually, Katie Conlon has her hand up. Katie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clarify, we're not going to be able to fund everything, but there's a lot. What she's looking at is the rollover budget, the 300.
Oh, no, I didn't say everything. I said
the rollover budget, but there's
seen.
a lot of other items that we are going to look to see if we can use some one-time free cash available for, or potentially the American Rescue Plan Act funds. But there's a lot of other items in different budgets that will not be able to be funded. So I just wanted to clarify that. There is a joint meeting of the finance committees tomorrow morning. The latest as of this afternoon is we still are waiting for the free cash certification.
Okay.
So we don't have an update on when that will be.
A level funding budget is still not a bad thing to be able to deliver, given the circumstances. So I think at this, we've completed our agenda, and if nobody has any new business, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn until our meeting Wednesday. Do we have a Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Lynn, can you take the roll, please?
John.
Yes.
Okay. Susanna.
Yes.
Erin. Yes. George.
Yes.
JJ.
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Kristen.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
And Dave joined the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you all. Thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Good night.